oh, that sounds far-fetched, oh, you're being extreme, oh, you're doing ghulluw. What does he do during this time when he was away? Well, he begins to speak to the gathering again. He says, I'm surprised at someone who would claim that we, the al-Bayt, have hidden knowledge, ilmul ghaib, whereas really only Allah has hidden knowledge. I wanted to go and find one of my maids who had hidden herself somewhere, and I was not sure which room was she in. Asif ibn Barkhia, he was one of the advisors and ministers of Prophet Sulaiman, who according to the Quran, it says he had some knowledge of the book. But with this small amount of knowledge of the book, he was able to, in the space of the blinking of the eyes, in other words, in a second or less than a second, to bring the throne of the queen of Saba or Sheba to Prophet Sulaiman. So with some knowledge of the book, look at the words being used, indahu ilmum min al-kitab, he had some portion of knowledge of the book, not the whole knowledge of the book. The Quran says he was able to do something like this. Now, the Quran has not mentioned his name, but it has just said that he had a quality. The quality that he had, which enabled him to do this, was to have some knowledge of the book. So there is a direct relationship between knowledge of the book and extraordinary powers to impact this world. And the more knowledge of the book a person has, the more wilayah takwiniyah they will have, the more power they will have. Now let's look at another verse, 1343. The Prophet, after trying so much to convince people and to spread Islam and to tell them the right religion, he was told, look, now that they've refused you, when they refuse you now, you say the following, وَيَقُولُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لَسْتَ مُرْسَلًا. When the faithless say to you, you are not a prophet, قُلْ كَفَى بِاللَّهِ شَهِيدًا. Say, look, sufficient is Allah as a witness between me and between you, and وَمَنْ عِنْدَهُ عِلْمُ الْكِتَابِ, and the one who possesses all the knowledge of the book, complete knowledge of the book, not like the previous verse where we were saying ilmun min al-kitab, some knowledge of the book. This is all the knowledge of the book. So who is this person who has all the knowledge of the book and can act alongside Allah as the witness to the Prophet's veracity and truthfulness? Well, this has been proven in the tafsiri debates and discussions that this refers to none other than Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam and all of the Imams. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri says that the Holy Prophet said, ذَاكَ أَخِي عَلِيُّ بْنُ أَبِي طَالِبٍ. This refers to my brother Ali ibn Abi Talib. Imam Muhammad Baqir, he says, نَزَلَتْ فِي عَلِيٍّ بَعْدَ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ. This ayat was revealed in the honor of Ali alayhi salam, وَفِي الْأَئِمَّةِ بَعْدَ, and in reference to all of the Imams also after Imam Ali alayhi salam. وَعَلِيٌّ إِنْدَهُ إِلْمُ الْكِتَابِ. It is Ali to whom this verse refers when it says he has knowledge of the book. Then we have this interesting hadith. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam was asked that, okay, here we have one verse which refers to Asif ibn Barkhia, who had some knowledge of the book, and here we have a verse which you say refers to Amirul Mu'mineen, who had all the knowledge of the book. So out of these two, who was superior in knowledge? Imam says the following, ما كان علم الذي عنده علم من الكتاب عند الذي عنده علم الكتاب إلا بقدر ما. He says, the person who had some knowledge of the book, Asif ibn Barkhia of Prophet Sulaiman, compared with the one who had all the knowledge of the book, Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, is like a mosquito which goes to the ocean and picks up some amount of water on its wing. Imagine how much water a mosquito can take on its wing if it dips itself in water. Tiny, tiny, tiny amount. In fact, you wouldn't even call it a drop. It's smaller than even a drop. And that ocean, in comparison, is the knowledge of Amirul Mu'mineen. In some narrations, it is narrated that the Ism A'zam, which gives power itself, which gives the granting of a person's wishes, which gives, for example, the person a lot of power to do things. Ism A'zam has 73 parts. One part of those 73 parts was given to Asif ibn Barkhiyah. That was his position. He had 1 out of 73. Whereas we have 72 out of those 73 parts. And the final part is, of course, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is reserved for him, it's especially for him, and no one can have an idea of that kind of power. So Allah, of course, is in his own category. But according to the creation of God, we have the Imams, more powerful in that sense than any other. So based on this, the power of the Imams to impact and influence the normal order of things or the normal way things are done becomes clear and obvious, and these things should not be just dismissed as impossible or against intellect. Why do we find then sometimes they did not admit openly that they had this kind of knowledge, or sometimes they downplayed it? Why is this? There are two reasons. Number one, because of danger. They could not sometimes, in the kind of situations they were in front of the Bani Abbas, Bani Umayyah, where their lives were in danger, where their followers' lives were in danger, they could not sometimes declare so openly these things. This is number one. Number two, sometimes maybe there wasn't danger, but the people in front of them, maybe their own Shias and their own followers, who were simple, who were not very well trained, who were not able to understand what they're trying to say. They didn't understand what the Imams were trying to say. They couldn't fathom what they were trying to say. They couldn't digest what the Imam was trying to say. Then the Imams would obviously not give them that kind of level of knowledge, which is 100% true, but they could not take it. So the Imams would downplay it. For example, what if the Imam said, yes, I have this hidden knowledge, and I have this hidden knowledge, and I can do this, and I can do that. That person, what if he then turns around and says, oh my God, you must be God himself, and they started to worship the Imams? The Imams would not allow that. So in front of some people who didn't have the capacity to understand and withstand these kinds of informations, they would downplay it. They would not declare everything. So here we have a long hadith from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, in which the Imam shows how, for example, sometimes the al-Bayt downplayed their own levels of knowledge. So what happens is, Imam is with a group of people, and he makes the following statement. He says, I know what is in the heavens, and I know what is in the earth. I know what is in heaven, and I know what is in hell. I know what has happened in the past and what will happen in the future. Then after some time, Imam felt that no, these people that I've just made these comments to, they don't have the right kind of capacity to absorb and withstand these comments. They may misunderstand them. So then he makes the following comment. I know all of this from the book of God, because in the book of God, he himself says, Fihi tibyanu kulli shay. In this Quran is the explanation and knowledge of everything. Then Imam stands up and he leaves the gathering, and he comes back after a while. What does he do during this time when he was away? Well, he begins to speak to the gathering again. He says, I'm surprised at someone who would claim that we, the Ahlul Bayt, have hidden knowledge, ilmul ghaib, whereas really only Allah has hidden knowledge. I wanted to go and find one of my maids who had hidden herself somewhere, and I was not sure which room was she in. So here, think about this. Like, Imam has just made a previous comment saying that I know what is in the heavens and the earth, I know what is in heaven and hell, I know the past and I know the future. And now he's come back and said, well, I needed to find where my Pennies was, where my maid was. I wasn't sure which room she was in. And then he says, only Allah has hidden knowledge. So here, Imam has not done anything wrong. He's saying, I do have the knowledge of these things, but then he felt, I need to caveat this because there's some people here, either they won't understand or there may be some danger for me. So he says, I know this from the book of God. And then he clarifies further that only Allah has hidden knowledge. Of course, only Allah has hidden knowledge. Definitely, we believe that. All the Shias believe that only Allah has hidden knowledge, but then he gives it to whomever he wishes. He gives it to Imams, he gives it to the Prophets. And then Imam shows that, yes, even though I do have this hidden knowledge, I still have to use the apparent means at my disposal. I still have to live in this world like a normal person. I still have to go and look for someone. I still have to go and find someone. Again, in the same report, then we have Imam in a private conversation now with a couple of his special companions. When they asked him, "Oh Imam, we heard what you said about your maid and all of these things, but we really believe that you have some very fantastic and superior levels of knowledge." Imam says to them, "Have you come across this verse?" Imam confirms that, "Yes, I do. But have you come across this verse?" And he quotes the verse of Asif ibn Barkhia, that there was a person with some knowledge of the book, and he was able to bring the throne of the Queen of Sheba. So he says, "Have you come across this verse?" I said, "Yes, I have." He said, "Do you know who said this and how much knowledge he had?" I said, "Please tell me." He said he had the level of knowledge he had was like a drop compared to the ocean. "How much do you think this is?" I said, "Well, this sounds like a very small amount." He said, "No, actually, it's a great amount because even though it's a drop in the ocean, it's linked with the knowledge of Allah." So even, yes, Asif ibn Barkhia, we are saying he didn't have as much knowledge as Amir al-Mu'mineen, but still the amount he had, you can't say it's a small amount. He had a great amount. Then he said, "Have you come across this next verse?" And he quotes the verse of Amir al-Mu'mineen, "Waman indahu ilmul kitab," the one who had knowledge of the whole of the book. I said, "Yes, I've come across it." He says, "Tell me, between these two verses, someone who has some knowledge and someone who has all the knowledge of the book, which is greater?" I said, "Of course, obviously, the one who has all the knowledge of the book, his knowledge level is greater." And then Imam pointed to his blessed chest and he said twice the following: "Ilmul kitabi wallahi kulluhu indana, ilmul kitabi wallahi kulluhu indana." All of the knowledge of the book, I swear by Allah, is with us. All of the knowledge of the book, I swear by Allah, is with us.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد